Bloody hell. Has anyone got a pencil? Hello, my name's Mark and I'm the host of the Mixtape podcast, where every week I'll be asking my guest to make up an imaginary mixtape. Track 1, what's your intro? What's your attention grabber? What's the song that's going to draw me in and make me want to listen to the rest of your mixtape? Track 2, pick a song that you sing loud and proud when you're on your own in the shower or the car. Track 3, get a little bit obscure and pick a track that's an album track or a B-side. Track 4, pick a song that you would like to have played to your 18-year-old self. And track 5, pick a song that you would put on your mixtape to let the listener know that you are romantically interested. Don't forget to smash the plus or the follow button at the top of the page, or follow me on Instagram at the Mixtape Perf, and you'll be notified every time there is a new podcast. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy this chat. Hello and welcome to another mixtape, and on this week's show I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Steve Kilbey from the church. How are you, Steve?
Hello, Mr. Phillips. I'm doing quite well, actually.
You look well, mate. You look well.
Thank you.
Are you sort of all done with the tour now, with the record, or have you still got more dates to play, mate?
We're going back to America in October. We are releasing a digital deluxe version of our record, which means basically we've recorded another 10 tracks that are it's a companion album to the Hypnogogue, and it's going to come out like to sort of kickstart the whole thing again when we tour America.
Right, okay. And were they sort of the same recording sessions? You just had too much material?
Three of the songs are very, very good songs that just could not physically fit on the last record, and probably another 7 or 8 of them will be tracks that we have written for this purpose in a break in our tour. We went into a studio and recorded a bunch of new tracks that could sort of serve this purpose.
Right, okay. Is that just going to be CD and digital, or is that going to be like a quadruple vinyl or something like that?
I reckon the guy in England at Easy Action, he's absolutely nuts about double vinyl.
Right,
I've never met anybody so ashamedly a double vinyl fiend, just like double vinyl for the fucking sake of it. If you're gonna have vinyl, have double vinyl is his motto. So I could imagine him really wanting to get into a quadruple vinyl album. So I'd say, as a limited thing, that will probably, ridiculously enough, will probably happen. And I'd like to think it's, when people sit there and listen to those 4 sides, it's quality. It's like, and it's all gonna take you somewhere.
So speaking of taking you somewhere, for people who haven't heard the record already, talk to us about what is the Hypnagogue, Steve?
Okay. Strangely enough, I've got to say at the beginning, I was very nervous about this whole idea. And now, as we have done these tours and I've talked about it on stage, and critics have weighed in and fans have weighed in with their interpretation of this all, and the rest of the band have taken it to their bosom and embraced it, I feel the Hypnagogue has a lot more substance than it did at the very beginning. And a lot of sort of critics, and like very flattering for me, critics in the UK have sort of embraced the concept and sort of talked about it and talked about the implications of it. So I feel like it's a lot. It's not just a sort of, once upon a time it was just a sort of something I dreamed up. Now I feel this whole idea is, with all these different people contributing and thinking about it, it's taking on a much more solid feeling. So once upon a time, and there seems to be a moral moral to the story, or lots of morals that I never
Mm.
perceived when I just dreamt up the action. But the story concerns a guy in the future in 2054, a songwriter and a sort of what might be known as a rock and roll performer in those days. Think of
Mhm.
sort of like think of a really maverick sort of David Bowie
I
character.
was I was
I
literally
mean,
just going to say a Ziggy Stardust type character.
essentially that kind of thing, someone wonderful and talented and all that. Anyway, for whatever reason, he dries up and he hears that a woman has invented a machine and she's having a lot of success by dragging songs out of songwriters' heads and throwing them straight up the charts. And she has a very like successful business going, hoovering these hit songs out of people's head and then pretty much discarding them, and also discarding evidence that the people who are hearing these songs are being damaged as well by something that's very untoward going on, because the whole hypnagogue is like it's this mysterious thing. It's like a building, and it's a process, and it's an event, and you go in there, and it's a sort of a it's a, in the scientist is also part of like a necromancer, and she's constructed this thing, and it works on all kinds of principles, and some of them are kind of immoral and illegal, and probably she shouldn't be doing it. So the
Mhm.
people who hear these artificially created songs are sort of, some of them are probably driven mad by them. So it's sort of like a dark thing. Anyway, when he arrives there, he falls in love with her, and it all goes to hell, and he ends up with nothing.
The first thing I sort of sprung to mind here that I just scribbled down on my notepad so I didn't forget it while you were talking. It sort of runs kind of in parallel with that idea that you're talking about there with like what's going on at the moment in the music industry with AI. What are your thoughts on that, Steve? If you've
It
got any at all?
it suddenly, look, it when I thought of this idea, it didn't, that AI thing, because this album was made 4 years ago
Sure.
almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the AI thing wasn't like it is right
Yeah.
now, like
Yeah.
suddenly out of nowhere,
Yeah.
this new thing has entered the field. I think I think it's I think AI might very well be able to write blogs and newspaper articles and things like that. And I think it very may well write some okay songs. I
Mm.
don't think it will ever match the Dylans and the Lennons. There's something still so ephemeral and so fragile about the tiny things that go into the thought processes of our geniuses, the way our
Yeah.
Shakespeare's and our the people who make amazing films and choreograph amazing ballets, and the painters, all of these people. It's hard to imagine that a machine could ever figure out what this thing is, because it's so elusive.
Mm.
You can't even really program it. It's just something you can give a machine a huge vocabulary, and then you can go, okay, machine, if you're writing a Nick Cave poem or
Mm.
song, concentrate on this vocabulary. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it can never do the thing that Nick Cave can do, that puts that sort of twist on it
Mm.
that only he
Yeah.
can do. No
Yeah.
machine can do it. No other human can do it the way he can do it. And each person, each famous or acclaimed singer or writer has their own twist, I think, that they can put on things. And I don't think that's the one thing, otherwise it would be all over. I think there's this one
Yeah.
elusive
Yeah.
thing that will always put the humans, as far as this goes, as far as art and lyrics and music, it will always put the geniuses ahead of the machine. They will always do things that the machine won't realize why what they have done is so good, and it might even
Yeah.
not be something that can be analyzed. It's just a sort of a spiritual thing. I don't know. That's my
I think
opinion anyway.
for me, Steve, I think that the songwriting process is essentially a human experience, and the connection that listeners get with the songwriter as another human being is what really drags me in as a listener. And I you hear something in the lyrics that you know, you've experienced yourself in life, and you get that connection straight away. And I don't think there's any amount of AI songs that could ever replicate that sort of feeling or connection, you
That's
know?
right. That's right. Um, and even if they accidentally did, they wouldn't know why.
Yeah.
And you would. I mean, I'm sure in 1,000 AI generated songs, you and me could probably find something and go, oh, but in one instance, every now and then you might go, oh, but it wouldn't be
Yeah.
like, when I hear my favorite David Bowie song, where I go,
Mm.
oh, the whole way through, and
Yeah,
just go,
sure.
oh,
Yeah.
how did he? So I agree with you. I don't think a machine will, hopefully, will not be able to replicate that sort of heart to heart feeling that you get when you discover a music that really, really reaches you. There seems to be a kind of a connection that the person making that music understands you and
Yeah.
knows you. And that's that thing is what really struck me when I first found, like, my two guys, which were Mark Bolan and David Bowie.
Mhm.
When I encountered them, having not had this happen before, even though there are lots of people whose music I love, but I never encountered two people who seemingly were talking straight to me and sort of saw the world the way I did, and also had an idea of a world which was really exciting to me, a world where all these concepts all these things could sort of be valued and free. So I can't see machines doing that. Yeah.
Me neither. Okay, so you mentioned Bowie there, Steve. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's get into the meat of your mixtape, which I've asked you to make. And the title of your mixtape was,
My
that's it,
favorite
got it.
songs at this very moment. I think for everybody that's true. When someone says, "What's your favorite Bob Dylan song?" You go, "This one," but you always have to say, at this moment I'm saying that.
Yeah, yeah,
And tomorrow it'd probably be something else. So these, this is my mixtape that I made at that point in time.
yeah.
Going, what would I put in my mixtape for this person? Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a snapshot. So your track
Yeah.
one, I asked you to pick an intro, Steve. What
Yeah.
song would you put on track one of your mixtape that's gonna drag me in and want to make me listen to the rest of the tape?
Well, I'm putting David Bowie's, in my opinion, my favorite David Bowie song of them all, which does everything. It's a track off his album Diamond Dogs, and it starts right down low, and it's there's some kind of machine noise and things, and then this song starts up, and Bowie's right in his lower register. It almost sounds like he's been slowed down by a tape.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, Steve, but I just want to mention that I sometimes, obviously, I know Diamond Dogs and I'm aware of the song, but sometimes I Google stuff just to find out any interesting facts about it. And you touched on it straight away there. And one of the things I found out when I Googled this track was that's the lowest note that Bowie recorded. The opening line of that song is the lowest note that Bowie ever
It's
recorded.
it's so low,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
by the time the verse has finished, he's
mm,
up in this
yeah,
he's up in this register, where only he could go. Very few singers could traverse such a
mm,
huge range. But the reason it's the first song on the mixtape is that incredible, as it goes up and up and up, and then the second bit's in the next register, like his normal register, and then the third one is right up high, and it's so theatrical, and aided by Mike Garson's piano and the
mm,
mellotron. It's such a incredibly melodramatic, theatrical thing, like what he started on Time, on Aladdin Sane, this kind of European theatricality, show
mm,
busy sort of thing.
yeah,
And then the song explodes in this beautiful sort of instrumental, and it's Bowie playing all the instruments, not the bass,
yeah,
not the drums. He's playing all the guitars and all the
yeah,
keyboards, except Mike Garson's piano, which is just
mm,
such a beautiful thing. And then it sort of, the whole song turns around into a kind of an almost Velvet Underground kind of rocker, and then comes back again for one final verse to this beautiful, and Bowie is so high up by singing so emotively, and the song, all the sweeping piano, and then bang, we're back into this very primitive sort of distorted guitar rock out. So in this one song, Bowie treats us to all of his sort of
the full spectrum of Bowie.
Yes, his whole spectrum of David Bowie in one It's called two songs. It's called Sweet Things, and then / Candidate, and then Sweet Thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Sometimes I've even had the absolute heresy. I've been listening to Sweet Thing on some device or off iTunes or something, and it stops. It's like a shuffle place, and then it stops and doesn't go on to Candidate and then Sweet Thing reprise. And that to me is an absolute horror, like seeing
sacrilege, mate.
It's sacrilege.
What I normally do, Steve, obviously for the podcast on Spotify, I can't play the tracks because they're licensed content. But on the radio show, I'll drop the tracks in between the chat, so we get the full experience of your mixtape. So for track 2 of your mixtape, Steve, I asked you to pick a song that you sing when you're on your own, loud and proud in the car or in the shower, mate. What did you go with?
And what did I answer? I've forgotten now.
You went Seasons of Wither by Aerosmith.
Oh, yes. I got really obsessed by this song. I had to ask my girlfriend about this question. I said, what's a song that I sing loud and proud when I'm on my own? And she said, oh, my God, it's that Aerosmith one. And it's true. I couldn't stop singing it. I was walking around singing it all the time. Everybody was totally fed up with it. It was a song that was I used to buy all the Aerosmith's albums. Like I really liked them when I was sort of like in my late teens, and I was looking for a kind of a sort of an American version of the Rolling Stones, who I also loved. And I remember this song, Seasons of Wither, really struck me at the time. And then one day I was listening backstage, and I had my iPod on shuffle, my iPhone on shuffle, and there it played Seasons of Wither, and it sort of reeled me. And other people came in the room and said, "What's this playing?" And everybody was struck by this marvelous song. And there's thousands of cover versions. It's such a strange song. You wouldn't think there's like everybody and their animal has covered this song by Aerosmith on their second album. There's live versions of it with just Joe Perry and Steven Tyler. He's like slouching there with his arm around Joe Perry's neck as he's trying to play the guitar, and the Scarves singing this song. It's a really marvelous song. But I don't know if me singing it a cappella on my own in the shower is very marvelous at all.
I'm a big shower singer myself, Steve, and I've always find that the ones that you struggle to reach, like on a day-to-day basis, you can always get a little bit of a boost in the shower with the steam and the moist air and the acoustics in the shower. It always sounds a little bit better to me.
There's a good tip. Look, you know what happened to me when I was 10? I was singing in the shower. I was singing, always something there to remind me. And suddenly my mother burst in the door and said, "What is it? What's wrong, son? What's wrong? What's happened?" And she thought my singing was cries of agony and distress. So that was my earliest singing in the shower experience.
So we talked about Aerosmith there in the sort of early 70s. I think that was early mid 70s, that album. And were they one of the bands? Were they one of your big influences as a teenager?
No, they were not. They were not one of my big influences. They were. It was like there was the initial wave of influences, which was obviously Beatles and the Stones and Dylan, who were sort of inescapable as you grew up, and other things all around that, Donovan, or, the Byrds and everybody. And then suddenly, I discovered Mark Bolan, and then I discovered David Bowie, and then I kind of fell in love with them, and sort of they really made me want to do something, So, and then after them, but they were the two that, created a kind of a real fanboy thing where I really idolized them. So yeah, they're the ones that kind of stick with me.
Are you able to pin it down, Steve, to like a track or an album that you heard as a teenager where you go, that's what I want to do. I want to be a musician writing songs like that. Was it a Bowie or a Bolan track?
There were a lot of things, one day, I couldn't afford double albums when I was a kid. One day a friend of mine came round, brought me this copy of Tommy and said, here, you can borrow this for a few weeks. And I played Tommy. That sure made me want to be a musician. Just
yeah,
the scope and wonder and the drama and orchestration of all of that. It was sort of more like, not so much to be a musician and pick up an instrument and learn to play. I think I already want to do that. But these guys made me want to sort of be more than that, be a kind of a sort of a messenger or a so have more
storyteller.
A storyteller, but also like I wanted to do that trick they did to me. So I wanted to talk to people's hearts. So when they heard my records, the ones who really loved it would go, aha, he's doing this for us, because you've got to be a certain type of person to really like my stuff. And not many do, but the ones who do, when they find it, they really like it. So that's a sort of a bit of a payoff,
I saw a few weeks ago on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it. You probably would have as a bass player. I think it was Pinball Wizard, but it was John Entwistle's bass isolated. Unbelievable, incredible playing. Like just the isolated track of just his bass notes. Oh man, as a bass player and a singer, Steve, was Roger Waters kind of in your sort of sphere of influence?
Yeah. Roger Waters, he's one of the most sort of uncharacteristic bass players of all. I think he's not sort of really known for his bass playing, I would have thought. I was impressed with some really flashy bass players, and they were like Jack Bruce and the aforementioned John Entwistle, and also Chris Squire from Yes, and I guess a few others. I was really interested in listening to amazing bass players, but I had never had a desire to be an amazing bass player. Playing bass was more like my key into having a band and sort of like direct. I felt like I could direct everything from the point of view of the bass. Like if I could play a song on the bass and sing it, all the rest could just be able to go around that, and it would all kind of be taken care of. I really do love and appreciate a really amazing bass player, but I never had ambitions to really be one. I just I'm sort of content to be the sort of glue that holds a load of other really good musicians together.
Track 3 of your mixtape, Steve, I asked you to pick a B-side or an album track. What did you go with, mate?
Well, I've always been I was amazed by this. The same friend who brought me around Tommy, he brought me around Hot Love single, and on the B-side was 3 songs. I'm talking of T-Rex with 3 songs. Yeah. There Was a Time, Raw Ramp, and whatever the third one is, the boogie one.
Yeah. Electric Boogie, is it?
Electric Boogie. I was amazed by the quality of this song, There Was a Time. It's this really beautiful song, and it lasts like less than a minute, but it absolutely shocked me that this song that someone else would have stretched into 3 or 4 minutes, it's all over, I reckon, under a minute. Beautiful sort of string quartet, and this wonderful melody, and then suddenly that all ends, and there's a really good Mark Bolan sort of rockin' with really great rhythm guitar and bongos, a great track that easily could have been on that T-Rex album I love so much, which was just called T-Rex.
Yeah.
And then into the third song, which is a real throwaway, the Electric Boogie one, it's a really It's really funny just to hear Bolan making this stuff up. And also the interesting sort of the beginning of the end that he sort of, that you can see how it would, when you listen to the words of Electric Boogie. I'm standing by the corner of my old high school. I met this female and she called me a fool. It's kind of like it's a long way from Our People Were Fair and Wore sky in their hair. You know what I mean? He was he's starting to, he's the thing I liked about him, he reconciled kind of poetry and rock and roll. He was sort of like, and then when he strays too far either side, it sort of became banal. And there on this song here, on this B-side, after these other one really beautiful song and another one really sort of bitchin' rockin' song, and then there's this sort of silly Chuck Berry one where he's just having fun.
Yeah.
Incredible value. I thought that you buy a single and there's like 10 minutes of, or whatever, 8 minutes of music on the other side, 3 completely different songs. It was called a maxi single in those days.
Yeah. I think this is the track 3, I think, is when I'm asking people to make their mixtape. The track 3 is the one that I almost always have to Google because I didn't know that song before. And it struck me, and you touched on it, Steve, the orchestration and the strings on that track is really not what you expect from a T-Rex song. Like I was expecting, some sort of chuggy riff to sort of come in, and these strings just open up. And it's a beautiful track. Awesome choice, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
And speaking of beautiful tracks, this one, when I saw you chose your next track, this is a track you would like to play to your 18-year-old self, I thought that's a bit left field for someone like Steve Kilbey. But then I sort of thought, no, it's not. It's the orchestration on this, and it's a soundscape of Sigur Rós that I love. Sorry, yeah, I've already, spoiler alert. Yeah, you chose Valtteri by Sigur Rós as your track that you would like to play to your 18-year-old self. So what do you think your 18-year-old self would have made and taken away from that song, Steve?
I think he would have understood that in the future people were making music that had far less limits than what was around at that time. If you can imagine, when I was 18 in 1972, the kind of music that was around, it was like, all right now, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Very formulaic.
Yeah. A lot of, I would have marveled that people had taken the same instruments that were around in 1972, just your guitars and drums and pianos and basses and stuff, and come up with something that's suddenly, it's like so dimensional and so without constraints, and isn't working the way everything seemed to have to have worked in those days. I mean, even Bowie and Bolan, to a certain extent, were still constrained by this idea. But here are Sigur Rós, and they're like totally kind of organic, and the music's kind of, it's like rich and organic, and it bleeds and it hemorrhages and it shrinks down to nothing, and then it comes up like a church choir, like a hymn, like spiritual. It's spiritual music. It's like his beautiful voice and the notes that he hits and the melodies he carves out of all that. And all the things all the other instruments are doing, none of them cliched, none of them owing anything to Chuck Berry or even krautrock or anything you can understand. It's sort of like classical music played on rock and roll instruments with, it doesn't do the things that rock and roll does. It doesn't, like the church does, boom, 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 and the bass going boom, 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 the singer going, yeah, baby, or whatever it is. These guys they're not bound in by any of that. They're just free form, and yet it has form. It does have form. It's not just ambient, beautiful ambience. It's sort of, in its own way, it rocks, but not in a way I would have understood in those days. And I think to have heard music like that back then would have immediately accelerated my learning and understanding, and I would have immediately understood that music could exist, because until they did it, it didn't exist. Nobody,
Mm.
in my opinion, has ever made music like that before. That's why I think they're such a wonder, because they're taking the same old form as everybody else, but they're coming out with something completely different.
Yeah, it's an incredible track for sure. I don't know. I'm assuming. Have you seen the video that it goes along with?
Yes, I have.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm not into dance in any way, shape, or form, Steve. But those two dancers in that video and the setting where they've got the location, and it's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Like the way they interact with each other and how it builds like alongside the music there. So their sort of physical interaction builds, with the song. Unbelievable film. If you haven't had a chance to check out that video clip, if you're listening and you don't know that song, it's Voltaire by Sigur Rós, and I would urge you to skip the Spotify and go straight to the YouTube video because the visuals on that are absolutely incredible as well. Okay, last song of your mixtape, Steve, and track 5. And I
yeah.
asked you to pick a song that you would pick if you were sort of romantically interested in someone and you wanted to let them know. What
Yeah.
song did you pick?
Well, I picked a song off quite an unremarkable musical that came out during the 1970s, and it was called "The Phantom of the Paradise," and it was like a sort of a variation on the Phantom of the
Mm.
Opera. The music was written by Paul Williams, wasn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I had to Google this one as well, but
It's like this little. Is that his name? I keep questioning myself if that's his name. It's like a little blonde guy. He's really short little guy. He wrote songs for the Carpenters. Um, he wrote like Happy Days and Mondays, and
it
he wrote.
starred Paul Williams starred. Um,
Yeah.
so he's the main character, Paul
He,
Williams.
he's also stars in the movie as this sort of like satanic record company executive who runs this thing called Swan Records.
Yeah.
Anyway, he writes a song for this leading lady to sing in the film, and some of the songs in the film are pretty good, I got to say, but this one is like an absolute corker. It's like a torch song that not many people know about, and the girl who sings it's got this beautiful, deep,
She's got
resonant
a
voice.
sweet voice, yeah.
Yeah, and the arrangement,
Mhm.
and the lyrics are just absolutely mind blowing. And I would imagine that if you played this song to someone, you said, "Hey, listen to this, honey." I guess they would get the idea, it's kind of smoldering, but once again, it has a spiritual feeling. It's a song about reincarnation, how you'll come back, and it's not goodbye. We'll come back and we'll meet again. Sort of because our sort of love goes on forever. A beautiful
Yeah.
song.
You touched on it a little bit there, Steve, regards to the movie. I think from what I was reading about the movie, the actual movie itself didn't get too many sort of plaudits or critical acclaim when it came out, but the music, I think, was Oscar nominated and Golden Globe nominated. I think the music from the movie, but the actual movie itself was a bit sort of not really not really that well thought of. But
Look, it's a bit. I went to the pictures and saw it.
Mhm.
The year it came out, one was so starved for any kind of music. That without
Mhm.
computers and all that, if a movie comes to your local cinema and it's about a rock star, Lucifer, eternal
Yeah,
love, sort of Phantom of the Paradise, I was
yeah,
really up for it. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It was a bit
yeah.
of a, it's a bit of a, it's a sort of a comedy, and it's very much of its time, but it sort of sends up David Bowie and glam rock. There's a guy, in the musical that this guy writes. There's a musical within the musical, and the
Mhm.
guy writes a musical, and there's this singer called Beef, and he's like a David Bowie, and he comes out this ridiculously sort of slightly muscly guy with a silly wig, sort of
Yeah.
pouncing and preening, and he sings this song, "Life at Last, Salutations from the Other Side," and then while he's singing his song and prancing around, the Phantom launches this prop piece of sort of lightning bolt at him, and it hits him and electrifies him, and that's the end of him. I don't know. It's a kind of a silly, schmaltzy.
Yeah.
But there's a beautiful moment when the Phantom, who now has eternal life through some terrible process because he signed his soul to Swan.
That's right. Yeah.
He signed his, and there's this really sad scene where he's up on the roof of Swan's house looking down through a skylight during an afternoon rain thunderstorm. So he's up there wet, looking down as Swan's making love to the leading lady who was his girlfriend, his love, and his song is playing, and he's looking down, and you see he takes out a knife and stabs himself, and you see the blood on the window as the rain on the skylight as he's looking through it. But he can't die. He can't die. He's doomed to watch this. And he had half his face burned off by a record plant. Anyway, look, if you get a chance to see
I will definitely 100%. You've got me intrigued now.
It's a lot of fun, and there are some really good songs. There's some really good songs on the soundtrack. Okay,
we'll kind of round it out there, Steve. Well, I was just going to ask you, what's next? You mentioned the deluxe release of Hypnogogue and the US shows. Is that what's coming up and sort of back end of 2023, and what you got going on after that?
Yeah. I've got so many records on the boil. I'm finishing off a record I started in Italy, which is a project I have called Speed of the Stars. This is our second record. It's got an Irish musician, Frank Kearns, playing guitar, and Barton Price and Hugo Race are on it. And we started that on a houseboat in Italy. I'm also have recorded a new album with Martin Kennedy, who lives in Hobart. Tomorrow I'm going in to sing on some of these new church tracks. I'm probably going to start on another. Look, I've just got records all over the place, and there will be intermittent gigs as they come to light. And then eventually back to America in October. So.
Where's the best place for people to catch up with what you're up to, Steve? Instagram or Facebook, or you've got a website? Where's the best place to go?
I have a page. I hate saying this. I have a personal page, and I have a fan page. Steve Kilbey on Facebook, where if I'm doing a gig, I will definitely be posting on there.
Yeah. Steve Kilbey.
I also have accounts on Instagram. You can find me. Personal and fan ones. So yeah, I use social media to let people know what I'm doing.
Yeah, what I normally do, Steve, is in the link, the description for the podcast, I'll always put the links to your socials and your pages and websites and stuff in the description as well, so everyone can who's listening can link up with you there as well. Okay.
Fantastic. All right.
On that note, we'll call it a day. Thanks so much for making the time, Steve. I know you're a really busy man, and I really appreciate you calling, mate. Cheers.
No worries. See ya.
Good luck, Steve. See you, mate. That was a Mixtape podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to jump up to the top of the page and smash that follow button, and you'll be notified every time there's a new episode. Or follow me on Instagram @TheMixtapePerf. Until the next time.